Hello, I'm Andrew Mull, AARP Louisiana, Director of Advocacy. It's Monday, August 3rd, so that means another episode of AARP Louisiana's Advocacy in Motion, a show that's dedicated to providing the latest updates on issues important to the 50-plus population. Our guest today is Rosa Walton, who is Louisiana's long-term care ombudsman. Rosa has worked for the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs for the last 10 years. She started at GOEA as the contract reviewer and then became a home and community-based service program monitor. She now serves as Louisiana's state long-term care ombudsman. Rosa, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing good, Andrew. How are you doing?
Doing great. First off, how have the last few months been? I know it's been challenging times for everybody, and we've all been quarantining and staying at home. How have things been for you?
I definitely liked it in the first couple of months when the weather was a little bit nicer and we could go outside and it was a little bit cooler outside. But personally, I mean, working from home with a toddler can be challenging on its own. And then working with my ombudsman, it's just we're busier than ever talking to families and stuff. So it's definitely been a busy time and a very interesting time for everybody.
Well, for sure. And I know it's been busy, but have you had any chance to pick up any new hobbies or do anything exciting like that?
So I did try to teach myself to play the guitar a couple of years ago. So I started to try to pick that back up and tell myself, oh, play 30 minutes a day. And that happened for a little bit. So I know a few campfire songs that I could go by, but
That's all you need to know. That's
yeah.
all you need to know. That's it. What kind of guitar do you have?
Oh gosh, I can't
Just like
even.
an acoustic?
It's an acoustic. I got it several years ago, and I put it down. I get really excited about it. I start doing it, and then I put it down. So I need to pick it back up again.
I'll say this, I play the guitar too, and once you learn about 11 or 12 chords, even half that, 5 or 6 chords, you can play thousands of songs. So it's really it's a lot less intimidating than it might seem at first. But we'll continue to practice 30 minutes a day. That'll get it done.
It just hurts. You don't think about how much it hurts.
You got to build the calluses first. You got to get those calluses first. Once you get that, then that's the hard part. That's 90% of it. Well, good. Well, so Rosa, you're an ombudsman, and ombudsman is a word that is, unfortunately becoming more and more prominent in our vernacular these days, especially with all the current challenges that COVID-19 in a nursing home setting especially is creating. So what exactly is it that an ombudsman does? What is an ombudsman?
So I think that's a great place to start, because whenever I tell anybody what my title is, the first question is, excuse me, what is an ombudsman? It's a very interesting word. So it's actually a Swedish word that means citizen representative or citizen advocate. So the long-term care ombudsmen are advocates for residents living in long-term care facilities like nursing homes, like assisted living. So to name a few things that they do, they investigate and resolve complaints made by residents or on behalf of residents. But they really try to educate and empower those residents and their families, so then they have the tools and the knowledge to advocate for themselves. But ombudsmen also, they conduct trainings for facility staff, they do community education, health fairs we'll call them, and different senior centers we'll call, so they can go to those places and provide some community education for them. And then they get calls from just individuals in the community wanting assistance with choosing a potential facility. So, and I do want to point out that ombudsman services are free of charge and they're kept confidential. So ombudsman cannot do anything unless they have permission from the resident to do so. We do nothing just off the cuff on our own. We have to have permission from the resident to do so. And if we're in the middle of an investigation and they're like, you know what, never mind, stop, we stop. We follow their lead. We work for them. So.
Gotcha. And I totally misspoke. I didn't mean unfortunately becoming more and more prominent, because I think it's good that Ombudsman is becoming much more of a prominent feature of our language these days, because they're just so needed. So you kind of touched on this, but who else, like, who can really use these Ombudsman services?
I mean, pretty much anyone can access our services, but I will say the majority of people that do are the residents living in the long-term care facilities, their representatives, their concerned loved ones, administrators, facility staff, and then, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people who might need long-term care placement in the future and have no idea where to start. So they can contact the Ombudsman to get them help started in the process.
Well, so give me an example of a service that you might address or that an Ombudsman might address.
So Ombudsmen really want to ensure that residents know that they have rights. They have state and federal rights that they might not be aware of. So a few examples of those rights are like, they have the right to be treated with dignity, first and foremost, and they have the right to privacy. They have the right to personal property. So a lot of the concerns that Ombudsmen address are a violation of those basic rights that they do have. So if we get a call, I'm not being treated with respect and dignity, I keep getting my laundry back and it has tons of holes in it or something, something of that nature, because their property is getting lost or destroyed. Or if they call and say they feel like their quality of care is very poor. So things like that. And also a big portion of what we deal with is residents who are being involuntarily discharged from a facility. We do have an Ombudsman attorney that can assist those residents who do want to appeal and stay in the facility.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, you touched on a lot of them. I mean, as you well know, nursing homes continue to be such a hotbed for COVID-19, and you kind of alluded to a lot of stories or situations that we at AARP continue to hear about. Some are minor, some are really heart-wrenching, and a lot of, I mean, really none of them are minor. I mean, they're all very important, but some of them can really be very serious. And, we hear from family members that are worried about their loved ones and have real genuine concerns about their loved ones in a nursing home or another long-term care facility. So how has really, I guess, going back since mid-March, how has COVID-19, or really even a little bit before that, how has that affected the Ombudsman's involvement with long-term care facilities?
Well, I will say, thankfully, another state and federal right that residents do have is immediate access to the Ombudsman program. So during this pandemic, residents still continue to have that right, thankfully. So while in-person visits aren't necessarily happening right now, facilities are still required to facilitate that communication between the residents and the Ombudsman via any kind of virtual platform. So the Skype, Zoom, a regular phone call. And there is a local Ombudsman assigned to each long-term care facility. So before the pandemic, those Ombudsmen are going to their assigned nursing facilities on a regular basis, and they're still doing their regular visits. And then if they have a complaint call on a specific thing, and they might have to go back to that facility several times rather than just their regular visit. So during this pandemic, Ombudsmen still contact their facilities. They're still in regular contact with the administrators, staff, the Ombudsman, the residents and their families. And at this time, there are situations where compassionate care visits are warranted. So there are some in-person visits that and thankfully we've been given guidance that it's not just end of life situations. There are other situations that can warrant a compassionate care visit. And if you talk to the administrator and you're not really getting anywhere, talk with your ombudsman and see if maybe y'all can advocate together to see if a compassionate care visit is really something that that family can do to go visit that resident. And like you mentioned before, this is a challenge for everybody in this whole situation. So at the end of the day, ombudsmen are still trying to assist residents and their families as best as they possibly can.
Well, y'all are doing tremendous work across the state. I mean, how many long-term care, not to put you on the spot, but how many long-term care facilities are there in Louisiana?
So there are 298 nursing facilities, and the number of assisted living escape me right now, but there are 279 nursing facilities. So,
yeah.
And they don't, and ombudsmen don't visit. They visit nursing facilities every other month is their regular, and then for assisted livings they might go once a quarter. So they don't visit those quite as much. But again, if there is a complaint call, it would be warranted for them to go in more often. So,
gotcha. Well, you know, I'm sure you well know that AARP has been working really hard to educate the public about several critical areas. You touched on several of them yourself that address to protect older adults and seniors that are currently in a nursing home or assisted living or other long-term care facility, whether it's ongoing testing, PPE, protective equipment, more access to that, more staffing, or more adequate staffing, and then access to facilitated virtual visitation, which is being able to communicate with your loved one in a facility, in a room, or at least in a common area. So one of the challenges that we've had at AARP is really promoting access to virtual visitation, because you and I talked a little bit about this earlier, but passing a law is really important, but it's really after the law is passed that the real hard work begins with promoting it, educating the community about it, building awareness around it, and making sure it's properly enforced. So what can we do to promote access to virtual visitation?
Well, like you just mentioned, there's kind of two sides to the virtual visitation. So there are the different platforms like Skype and Zoom and FaceTime, and families can reach out to facilities to see what they are allowing residents to have access to, and typically I've heard from ombudsmen that there are activity directors or different aides that can assist residents in using these platforms because they might have never used Skype or FaceTime or Zoom. So they are receiving that assistance. But I will say back in May, Health Standards did send all nursing homes an application to be able to receive up to $3,000 in adaptive communication technology. And according to Health Standards, only about a third of nursing homes have applied for it. So I'd recommend that families maybe contact their facility, see if they are one of those facilities that have applied for it. And if not, try to encourage them to apply.
Let me stop you there. So you said earlier about 290 some odd nursing facilities in the state. If a third of those applied, we're talking about around 100 or a little bit less than 100. So yeah, there's still 200 facilities out there that are not taking advantage of what essentially is free grant money to do this. Is that okay? Well, yeah. So if your loved one is in a nursing home, who would you recommend them call at that actual facility? Can they just talk to the administrator, or to who would be the best person to contact there?
I mean, I would recommend the administrator, but hopefully anybody would know that they have that done. And also contact the ombudsman. The ombudsman might potentially know or can get that information for you. So.
Okay.
So that's one hand of the coin. And then the other one is, like you were just mentioning, the Granny Cam. It's a monitoring device that residents can have in their rooms now that give families peace of mind. But like you said, a lot of people aren't utilizing it. And I don't know if it's because they potentially don't know that that's available to them. So that's another thing that I would encourage families to call the facility, call your ombudsman, and see what kind of policies that facility has in place, because one deterrent might be that there could potentially be a cost associated with it besides from just buying the camera itself. There potentially could be a monthly fee or something that the nursing home imposes. So that's just one thing that you can kind of encourage families to look into if they haven't already. Because the ones that currently have monitoring devices, and which I said aren't that many, are happy that they have it, especially during this time where they cannot visit a facility. So on top of that, I think a great thing to encourage are family councils. There are not many in Louisiana at all. And families of residents can get together and talk about and communicate their concerns to the facility. They can try to work towards as a common goal together to form resolutions and improvements. And one of those improvements could potentially be better access to virtual visitation. So like I said, there aren't that many family councils in Louisiana right now, but contact your ombudsman, see if maybe there is one at that facility and you can join, or the ombudsman can help set one up at that facility. So I think a family council is really, really vital. And especially in times like this, I think it could be really beneficial. So that's definitely something I would encourage families to do.
Well, let's pause right there and let's show how folks can contact their ombudsman. If you want to find your local ombudsman, it's pretty easy to do. You just go to that website, goea.la.gov/ombudsman, all one word. And if you want to call them, you don't have access to a computer or laptop, you can call them toll free at 866-632-0922, or email them. You want to email them at stateombudsman@la.gov. So that's the way to get into contact with them. All right, so that's a critical resource. What are some other resources that families of residents in nursing homes or long-term care facilities can access?
So as we're discussing like this virtual visitation and communication, a great resource that I just became familiar with is LATAN, which is the Louisiana Assistive Technology Access Network. And they serve individuals with disabilities and functional limitations who need these assistive technology devices. So families can contact LATAN, see what kind of devices they have to offer, and then they can get assistance on figuring out which devices would work best. They have trial and error. They don't want to just, this one looks good, here, let me give it to you. They let you test out to see which device would be the best fit. So we recently did a demo with them a month or so ago, and they have such innovative technology that could be so useful for these residents. So I definitely recommend looking into LATAN, contacting them. Here's their information. They some of the nicest staff I've whenever we did the demo, they were all so friendly and very in tune with what the devices do, and just excited because I believe they're also creating some different devices with 3D printers and stuff. So a lot of innovative technology to definitely dive into and see what they have. And another really great resource that I look at all the time is Consumer Voice. And Consumer Voice is the national leading voice for representing consumers and issues related to long-term care. So if you go and visit their website, they have specialized information and webinars and fact sheets for residents, for family members, for different advocates. And right now, during COVID-19, they have a lot of information specifically about COVID-19 and different ways that you can help communicate with your family, or different, they have so much information on that website. It's just such a great resource, and I definitely recommend family and residents themselves go and check it out and see what all they have to offer.
So Latan, Consumer Voice, and I would say that if anyone needs that information or has trouble accessing it, to of course contact the Ombudsman program. But it sounds like you can contact them directly, which is fantastic. Well, this has been great information, Rosa, and really a very helpful conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to share that, I mean, not that you haven't shared a ton already, but is there anything else that you'd want to share for those needing information?
Yeah, well, just lastly, I'd love to say there are a lot of resources out there. You can contact the Ombudsman program. We're here to help. We want to assist anybody in any way we can, and contact me if you have questions. Just we want to help residents and their families out the best that we possibly can. So.
And before I forget, the residents, October is Residents' Rights Month, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And I would love to say, so we have kind of a special project in the works that we're on the ground level of figuring it out, but we have a community project that's hopefully going to be exciting and get the community involved and be able to use a little creativity to spark some brightness into these residents' lives while promoting Residents' Rights Month. So as soon as I get some more information on that, I'll definitely share it with you so you can share it with AARP.
Great. And we actually haven't, I don't think we've showed your information. So we're going to have a title card up there right now that'll have how people can contact you, Rosa. There it is. State Ombudsman at la.gov. In your direct line, 342-7100, area code 225. So great information, great way to contact you as well. Rosa, I can't thank you enough. We can't thank you enough here at AARP. Thanks to you for being here. Thanks to all of our viewers watching. For more information about AARP, please go visit us at AARP Louisiana on Facebook or AARP Louisiana on Twitter. So thank you, Rosa. Thank you, viewers, and keep that advocacy in motion. Thank you all.